The 1970s weren't just a decade of disco and rebellion. It was the decade when filmmakers tore down the myths of war. Gone were the patriotic fantasies of the 40s and 50s. What replaced them were gritty, introspective, and morally complex stories. Films that didn't just show war, they made you feel its chaos, confusion, and cost. From explosive battlefield spectacles to claustrophobic thrillers, these were movies that questioned everything: duty, heroism, even humanity itself. So grab your helmets and your humanity, because we're diving into the 12 best World War II movies of the 1970s, where cinema met history and nothing came out unscathed. Kelly's Heroes, 1970. Some war movies make you salute. Others make you laugh at the madness. Kelly's Heroes does both: a rebellious, gold-plated heist adventure that turns the chaos of World War II into one of cinema's most unconventional anti-war statements. Directed by Brian G. Hutton and starring Clint Eastwood at his most effortlessly cool, the film follows a ragtag group of American soldiers who stumble upon a rumor, a cache of Nazi gold hidden behind enemy lines. Instead of fighting for glory or flag, they fight for something far more universal: profit. But what sets Kelly's Heroes apart isn't just the premise, it's the attitude. Clint Eastwood's calm, tactical Kelly leads an ensemble of scene stealers, including Telly Savalas as the gruff Big Joe, Don Rickles as the scheming hustler Crap Game, and Donald Sutherland as the unforgettable tank commander Oddball, a flower power hippie in a Sherman tank. Oddball's laid-back mantras like "always with the negative waves Moriarty" became instant cult quotes, transforming him into a counterculture icon. Did you know the film's tone, a mix of dark humor, satire, and action, was controversial at the time? MGM wasn't sure whether to market it as a war movie or a comedy, and critics were puzzled by its irrelevance. But over time, Kelly's Heroes found its audience, especially among veterans who recognized the absurdity, greed, and improvisation that real war often involved. The production itself was as bold as the mission on screen. Shot in Yugoslavia using authentic W-2 tanks and massive outdoor sets, the battle scenes explode with spectacle. Yet beneath the explosions lies something sharper: a commentary on how soldiers, often left directionless by command, find their own reasons to keep going. What begins as a treasure hunt becomes a microcosm of the war itself: survival, greed, brotherhood, and the quiet rebellion against the absurd machinery of power. It's war as both madness and comedy, told with swagger, style, and cynicism. In the end, Kelly's Heroes is more than just a war caper. It's a statement that even in the darkest times, humanity finds a way to laugh, hustle, and dream of gold. And maybe, just maybe, that's how soldiers keep their sanity when the world around them goes mad. A Bridge Too Far, 1977? Now this. This is war cinema on a grand scale. A Bridge Too Far doesn't just tell a story. It recreates an entire operation, one of the most ambitious and disastrous of World War II, Operation Market Garden. Directed by Richard Attenborough, it's the kind of movie where the cast list alone could win an Oscar. We're talking Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Robert Redford, Gene Hackman, Anthony Hopkins, a dream team of grit, charm, and sheer star power. The film chronicles the Allied attempt to end the war early by seizing key bridges in the Netherlands, a plan so daring it bordered on impossible. And just like its title, the mission went one bridge too far. Attenborough doesn't glorify war, he exposes its hubris. We see soldiers parachuting into chaos, commanders blinded by optimism, and the thin line between strategy and catastrophe. The cinematography pulls you right into the mud, smoke, and confusion. Every explosion feels real, because it was. The film used thousands of extras, real paratroopers, and tanks rumbling through genuine European landscapes. Did you know the production itself mirrored the mission's scale? At the time, it was one of the most expensive movies ever made, over $25 million, a monumental gamble that nearly broke the studio. Critics were divided. Some hailed it as epic, others called it excessive. But over the years, it's become one of the most respected portrayals of wartime ambition and human fallibility. And let's not forget the performances. Sean Connery's stoic leadership, Gene Hackman's fiery energy, and Michael Caine's dry bravado create a tapestry of courage and chaos. Each soldier's face tells a story of belief and the brutal cost of misplaced confidence. In the end, A Bridge Too Far isn't just about losing a battle. It's about the eternal human urge to overreach, to dream big, fall hard, and march forward anyway. It's war stripped of illusion, told with the sweep of history and the intimacy of tragedy. The Eagle has landed, 1976. Now, here's a twist. What if the Nazis had tried to kidnap Winston Churchill? Sounds like a pulp novel fever dream, right? Well, that's exactly what The Eagle Has Landed delivers. A clever, suspense-packed World War II thriller that flips the script and dares you to root for the so-called bad guys. Directed by John Sturges, the man behind The Great Escape, this 1976 gem is based on Jack Higgins's bestseller, and it plays like a chess match between destiny and deception. Michael Caine leads the charge as Colonel Kurt Steiner, a German officer who still clings to a sense of honor amidst the insanity of war. His mission? Infiltrate a quiet English village and capture Churchill himself. Simple enough, until conscience, courage, and chaos collide. Caine brings a cool restraint to Steiner, the kind of weary dignity that makes you question everything you thought you knew about wartime heroes and villains. Then there's Donald Sutherland as Liam Devlin, the roguish Irish saboteur with a smile sharper than his wit. Every scene between them crackles with tension, charm, and moral ambiguity. Did you know? The film was shot largely in a small English village that was meticulously transformed into wartime Britain, complete with tanks, soldiers, and locals unknowingly walking into cinematic history. And here's the kicker. The studio expected a straight-up action flick, but Sturges and Caine delivered something richer, a story about honor in impossible times. When the operation inevitably unravels, The Eagle Has Landed turns from thriller to tragedy, not about failure, but about conviction. It's one of those rare war movies where you find yourself quietly respecting both sides, caught in the gravity of choices that transcend politics. By the end, the eagle may have fallen, but the film soars, a masterclass in suspense, irony, and the strange humanity that sometimes hides inside the fog of war. Patton, 1970. Some war movies show you the battle. Patton shows you the man who became the battle. Directed by Franklin J. Schaffner and written by Francis Ford Coppola, this 1970 classic isn't just a World War II film. It's a character study wrapped in explosions, history, and ego the size of a tank division. From the moment George C. Scott steps onto the screen in front of that massive American flag, delivering his thunderous monologue, "No one ever won a war by dying for his country," you know you're witnessing something electric. It's not patriotism. It's obsession. Scott doesn't just play General George S. Patton. He channels him with every glare, every barked order, every strange blend of poetry and fury. Set across North Africa, Italy, and beyond, the film follows Patton's brilliant and often volatile career. He's a man who sees war not as horror, but as destiny, and that's what makes him both unstoppable and dangerous. His genius on the battlefield is matched only by his talent for self-destruction. Did you know that Patton almost didn't get made? Studios were nervous about portraying such a controversial figure, a general both admired and reprimanded by his own side. Coppola's script was even shelved for a while before Schaffner resurrected it, shaping it into one of cinema's boldest biopics. The production itself mirrored its subject, massive, disciplined, and unpredictable. The film used hundreds of real soldiers, tanks, and historic locations. Jerry Goldsmith's iconic trumpet theme feels like a hymn to both glory and madness, echoing the lonely grandeur of a man forever at war, even with himself. Scott's performance won him the Oscar, but in true Patton fashion, he refused to accept it. Maybe he knew that Patton wasn't about awards. It was about the eternal duel between ambition and morality, courage and pride. By the time the credits roll, you don't just know Patton, you feel him. Larger than life, unstoppable, and utterly human. In the pantheon of World War II films, this one doesn't just march, it's commands. Tora, tora, tora! 1970. Before Saving Private Ryan or Pearl Harbor ever tried to recreate the chaos of December 7, 1941, there was Tora. 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 The movie that did it first, and arguably did it best. Directed by Richard Fleischer, Kinji Fukasaku, and Toshio Masuda, this 1970 epic takes on one of the most shocking moments in history and tells it from both sides, American and Japanese, with surgical precision. The title itself comes from the Japanese signal meaning tiger, 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 the code sent when the Pearl Harbor attack had achieved total surprise. But what makes this film extraordinary isn't just the spectacle of bombs and smoke, it's the meticulous buildup, the eerie calm before the storm. We see the months of intelligence failures, bureaucratic blindness, and small decisions that led to one of the most infamous mornings in history. This wasn't a movie about heroes or villains. It was about human error on a global scale. The Japanese sequences, shot by Fukasaku and Masuda, bring discipline and strategy into sharp focus, while Fleischer's American segments show the complacency and confusion that made the unthinkable possible. Together, they create a mirror. Two nations racing toward a collision neither truly understood. Did you know Tora used over 30 replica aircraft, many built from scratch? Those flight sequences, no CGI, no shortcuts, remain among the most realistic aerial battle scenes ever filmed. Every explosion was choreographed, every shot timed with military accuracy. At its release, audiences expected pure action, but what they got was something deeper. A documentary-style dissection of destiny, filmed with the eye of a historian and the tension of a thriller. Critics were divided at first, but decades later, it's hailed as a masterpiece of authenticity. By the end, when the flames consume Pearl Harbor and the Japanese commanders murmur, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant," the line hits like prophecy. Tora! It isn't just a war movie. It's history reborn in real time. Cold, methodical, unforgettable. Cross of Iron, 1977. War isn't noble here. It's filthy, chaotic, and crawling with disillusionment. Cross of Iron strips the shine off heroism and leaves us with something far more honest: survival. Directed by Sam Peckinpah, the cinematic outlaw behind The Wild Bunch, this 1977 anti-war masterpiece dives deep into the crumbling Eastern Front, where German soldiers fight not for glory, but just to stay alive. James Coburn plays Sergeant Rolf Steiner, a weary, battle-hardened soldier who's seen too much and believes in nothing except his men. Enter Captain Stransky, played by Maximilian Schell, an aristocratic officer desperate to earn the Iron Cross to prove his worth. What unfolds is not just a clash between armies, but between truth and vanity, honor and hypocrisy. Steiner's gritty realism collides with Stransky's delusion, and through that collision, Peckinpah crafts a vision of war that's both breathtaking and horrifying. There are no grand speeches here, no waving flags, just mud, fear, and the slow unraveling of men's souls. Did you know the film was shot in Yugoslavia using real military hardware from World War II? The authenticity is staggering. Explosions thunder through real terrain, bullets tear through smoke, and Peckinpah's signature slow motion transforms the battlefield into a grim ballet of chaos. Critics at the time were shocked by its rawness. Audiences expected another adventure story. What they got was an existential nightmare. Cross of Iron is war as moral collapse, where victory means little and humanity is the only thing left worth fighting for. Even the great Orson Welles called it the best anti-war film ever made. And he wasn't wrong. In the end, Steiner's haunting grin as the world burns around him says it all. There's no triumph here, no redemption, just the cruel, quiet truth that war devours everything, even the men who see through it. Cross of Iron doesn't glorify, it condemns. It's Peckinpah at his rawest and war cinema at its most unflinching. Midway, 1976, if Cross of Iron showed war's mud and madness on the ground, Midway took the battle to the skies and seas, and did it with the grandeur only 1970s Hollywood could muster. Directed by Jack Smite, this gripping World War II epic recreates one of history's most pivotal naval clashes, the Battle of Midway, where the fate of the Pacific hung in the balance. The cast is a who's who of classic Hollywood power: Charlton Heston, Henry Fonda, Toshiro Mifune, Glenn Ford, and Robert Mitchum, commanding ships, flying planes, and making decisions that would alter history. But Midway isn't just about star power. It's about precision, courage, and the thin, terrifying line between victory and annihilation. The film chronicles the events leading up to the June 1942 battle, where American intelligence managed to break Japanese codes, setting the stage for a desperate showdown. What makes Midway remarkable is its balance between spectacle and authenticity. It's not just a war film, it's a reenactment of strategy, tension, and human will under impossible pressure. Did you know that Midway used actual wartime footage spliced with newly filmed scenes to create its aerial sequences? That technique, though controversial at the time, gave the film an incredible sense of realism. The roar of engines, the chaos of torpedo runs, and the harrowing dogfights feel frighteningly genuine, as if you're right there in the cockpit. Roger Ebert noted that Midway works not through glamour, but gravity. It respects the soldiers, not as heroes of myth, but as men carrying the unbearable weight of command, fear, and sacrifice. The film doesn't romanticize the war. It honors the quiet bravery of those who fought and died in it. Smite's direction makes you feel the chess game of battle. Every intercepted code, every risky maneuver, every split-second decision. The tension builds until the final thunderous clash when luck and courage decide the outcome of history. In the end, Midway isn't just about ships and planes. It's about the people who dared to face overwhelming odds and change the course of the war. It's a soaring, solemn tribute to strategy, sacrifice, and the unbreakable spirit of those who fought for the future. Force 10 from Navarone, 1978. Some sequels try to recapture the magic. Others take the legend and forge a new adventure from its shadow. Force 10 from Navarone, 1978, does a bit of both. Directed by Guy Hamilton, Goldfinger, Live, and Let Die, this action-packed World War II epic picks up the thread of The Guns of Navarone, 1961, blending espionage, sabotage, and explosive set pieces into a bold, if uneven, sequel that's become a cult favorite for fans of 1970s war cinema. The story follows Major Mallory, Robert Shaw, and Sergeant Miller, Edward Fox, standing in for Gregory Peck and David Niven from the original, as they're recruited for a new mission behind enemy lines. This time, they're joined by a ragtag squad including Harrison Ford, fresh off Star Wars, as the brash Lieutenant Barnsby. Their assignment: destroy a strategic bridge in Yugoslavia and uncover a double agent hiding among the partisans. What begins as a straightforward mission quickly spirals into a web of deception, betrayal, and large-scale destruction. Did you know the film took over a decade to get made? Delayed by studio shakeups and changing tastes, Force 10 from Navarone was finally greenlit after the success of big-budget ensemble war movies like A Bridge Too Far. Shot across Yugoslavia and the UK, it featured grand practical effects, including the climactic bridge explosion, which remains one of the most spectacular miniatures ever filmed. Critics were divided. Some praised its brisk pacing, thrilling set pieces, and charismatic cast, while others lamented the lack of the original's gravitas and character depth. The chemistry between Shaw's grizzled veteran and Ford's cocky newcomer, however, gives the film an energy that bridges old-school war adventure with late 70s action style. Despite modest box office returns, it found new life on television and home video, earning appreciation for its mix of espionage, intrigue, and explosive spectacle. Today, Force 10 from Navarone stands as a fascinating bridge, pun intended, between eras. A film caught between the traditional heroics of 1960s war epics and the sharper, faster energy of modern action cinema. It may not match the original's prestige, but its blend of suspense, adventure, and sheer entertainment keeps it firmly on the radar for fans of classic World War II storytelling. Hellboats, 1970. Some World War II films aim for grand strategy and sweeping spectacle. Hellboats, 1970, dives straight into the action, delivering a gritty, fast-paced naval thriller that captures the danger and desperation of small-scale combat on the high seas. Directed by Paul Wendkos and starring James Franciscus, this British war drama brings to life the daring exploits of motor torpedo boat crews operating in the Mediterranean, men who faced impossible odds with courage, ingenuity, and sheer nerve. The story follows Lieutenant Commander Jeffords, Franciscus, an American officer seconded to the British Royal Navy and stationed in Malta. Tasked with commanding a flotilla of motor torpedo boats, MTBs, Jeffords must plan and execute a high-risk mission: destroy a secret German dry dock in occupied Sicily. Along the way, he clashes with his superiors, faces betrayal, and navigates a dangerous affair with the wife of a senior officer. adding emotional depth to the relentless wartime tension. Did you know the film was partly inspired by real-life Royal Navy operations in the Mediterranean during World War II? The production used actual naval vessels and authentic British bases in Malta, giving Hellboats a surprising level of realism despite its modest budget. The result is a film that captures both the claustrophobia of naval warfare and the moral strain placed on those who fought it. While it lacked the big names and large budgets of Hollywood's major war epics, Hellboats compensates with tight direction, solid performances, and an authentic sense of danger. James Franciscus gives a committed performance as a man torn between duty, personal conflict, and a nearly suicidal mission. The battle sequences, especially the final assault on the Sicilian harbor, are shot with impressive precision, relying on real stunts and explosions rather than heavy effects work. Critics at the time gave mixed reviews, noting its familiar plot and limited production scope, but fans of WW42 naval action found plenty to admire. Over the decades, Hellboats has earned a quiet reputation as an underrated gem, a compact, character-driven war adventure that thrives on grit rather than glamour. In the end, Hellboats proves that heroism doesn't always unfold on the grandest scale. Sometimes it's found in the cramped quarters of a torpedo boat under fire, where courage means pushing forward when survival seems impossible. Overlord, 1975. Some war films bombard you with spectacle. Overlord, 1975, does the opposite. It creeps under your skin with quiet intensity, mixing real wartime footage with haunting fiction to create one of the most striking, poetic depictions of World War II ever filmed. Directed by Stuart Cooper and produced by the Imperial War Museum, Overlord isn't just a story. It's an experience, a dreamlike journey into the heart of D-Day, seen through the eyes of one young, doomed soldier. The film follows Tom Beddoes, Brian Sterner, a gentle, wide-eyed British recruit who joins the army in 1944, trains for the invasion of Normandy, and slowly comes to realize he might not survive it. There are no big heroes here, no grand speeches or triumphant music, just the quiet inevitability of fate. Through Tom's eyes, we see the absurdity of war's bureaucracy, the camaraderie of the barracks, and the tender, fleeting moments of youth before history swallows it whole. What makes Overlord extraordinary is its use of real World War II footage seamlessly intercut with the dramatized story. Cooper and cinematographer John Alcott, who had just worked with Stanley Kubrick on Barry Lyndon, shot the new scenes in grainy black and white using vintage film stock and period lenses, creating an uncanny illusion that blurs the line between documentary and drama. The result feels both eerily real and tragically poetic, like watching a ghost story unfold in real time. Did you know Overlord was nearly shelved before release? The Imperial War Museum initially struggled to find a distributor. Studios feared it was too bleak, too unconventional. But over time, it found its audience among historians and cinephiles alike, eventually being restored and re-released by Criterion, where it's now hailed as one of the most haunting WW2 films ever made. The brilliance of Overlord lies in its restraint. There are no grand victories here, only humanity caught in the machinery of history. The film's title itself is a grim irony. Operation Overlord was the code name for the D-Day invasion, but for Tom, it's less about glory than about surrender, to destiny, to chaos, to the inescapable tide of war. In the end, Overlord isn't about winning or losing, it's about remembrance, the faces, voices, and dreams lost to time. It reminds us that behind every strategic map and battlefield statistic was a young life, filled with hope, fear, and the quiet courage of simply carrying on. Too Late the Hero, 1970. Some war films are about bravery. Too Late the Hero is about survival, messy, cynical, and painfully human. Directed by Robert Aldrich, the same tough-minded filmmaker behind The Dirty Dozen, this 1970 World War II drama strips away the romance of heroism and leaves us in the mud, sweat, and confusion of men trapped between duty and doom. The story drops us into the South Pacific, where a British commando unit, joined by an American interpreter named Lawson, played with razor-edged charm by Michael Caine, is sent on a near-suicidal mission, destroy a Japanese radio installation deep behind enemy lines. It's a classic premise, until everything starts falling apart. What begins as a straightforward operation devolves into a tense, desperate fight for survival, where loyalty, fear, and self-preservation clash violently. Kane delivers one of his grittiest performances, playing a soldier who doesn't believe in war, heroism, or the cause, just in staying alive. Alongside him, Cliff Robertson's Lieutenant Lawson is the perfect counterbalance, disciplined, patriotic, and dangerously naive. As their unit dwindles, their moral clash becomes the film's real battlefield. Did you know the film's jungle sequences were shot in the Philippines under brutal conditions? The humidity, real insects, and exhaustion bled into the performances, giving Too Late the Hero an authenticity few war films of its era could match. Aldrich, known for pushing actors to their limits, intentionally shot long takes in oppressive heat to evoke genuine tension and fatigue. While it was marketed as another men-on-a-mission adventure, audiences were unprepared for the bleakness beneath the gunfire. There's no triumphant music here, no final victory, just the cold echo of futility. Critics at the time were divided. Some called it too grim, others hailed it as a raw, realistic take on the psychology of soldiers pushed past breaking point. Over the decades, Too Late the Hero has gained a new reputation, not as a bombastic war spectacle, but as a brutally honest meditation on cowardice, confusion, and the thin line between heroism and survival. In a genre obsessed with valor and victory, Too Late the Hero dares to ask the question few war films do. What's left of a man when courage runs out? It's not about medals or missions. It's about the price of making it to the end, even when the end feels too far away. Catch-22, 1970. Now here's a war film that doesn't march. It spirals. Catch-22, 1970 isn't about battles or medals. It's about madness, the kind that hides behind military logic and bureaucratic smiles. Directed by Mike Nichols, fresh off his success with The Graduate, this adaptation of Joseph Heller's legendary novel turns World War II into a dark, dizzying carnival where reason collapses and absurdity reigns supreme. The story follows Captain John Yossarian, played by a brilliant, neurotically sharp Alan Arkin, a U.S. bombardier stationed on the fictional Mediterranean island of Pianosa. His only goal? To stay alive. But the military has other plans. You see, there's a catch. Catch-22. If Yossarian wants to be grounded for insanity, he must first ask for it. But if he asks, it proves he's sane, and therefore fit to fly more deadly missions. It's logic turned inside out, and it drives everyone around him mad. From the very first frame, Catch-22 feels like a fever dream. Nichols fills the screen with haunting desert landscapes and chaotic airfields, where soldiers drift through a world ruled by circular rules and invisible threats. The cast is stacked with brilliance. Orson Welles as a blustering General Dreedle, Jon Voight as the greedy Milo Minderbinder, Martin Balsam, Bob Newhart, and even a young Art Garfunkel. Each character feels like a piece of the same puzzle. Funny, tragic, and disturbingly familiar. Did you know Nichols filmed real B-25 bombers, 17 of them, soaring across the skies of Mexico for the aerial scenes? It's one of the largest coordinated air sequences ever shot. But for all the spectacle, the film's real target isn't the enemy. It's the machine of war itself. Every absurd order, every senseless death, every self-serving command builds toward a chilling realization. The system is the true madness. When Catch-22 premiered, audiences didn't quite know what to make of it. It came out the same year as MASH, another anti-war satire. But where MASH laughed, Catch-22 haunted. Critics called it chaotic, confusing. And yet, that's the point. War is chaotic, and Nichols forces us to sit inside that chaos, to feel its rhythm, its contradictions, its claustrophobic absurdity. Over time, Catch-22 became a cult masterpiece, a film that feels as relevant today as it did in 1970. It reminds us that behind every order and every mission lies a contradiction, one that traps ordinary men in an extraordinary, senseless machine. In the end, Catch-22 isn't a story about fighting the enemy. It's about fighting logic itself, a war where no one wins because winning makes no sense. And maybe that's the cruelest truth of all. And there you have it, 12 war films that redefined what battle meant, both on screen and in the soul. The 1970s didn't just show us tanks and trenches, it showed us truth. It stripped away the glory, the speeches, the black and white flags of victory, and left us with something messier, something human. From Patton's thunderous ego to Catch-22's madness, from Midway's roar of courage to Overlord's quiet doom, each film asked the same unflinching question: when the smoke clears, what's left of the men who fought? These weren't just movies, they were mirrors, reflecting how the world wanted to remember its darkest hour. And maybe that's why they still hold power today, because they dared to show that even in chaos, there's conscience. And even in war, there's the ghost of peace trying to break through. If this cinematic march through the 1970s has you thinking differently about war on film, don't fade out yet. Hit like, share your favorite W2E2 movie in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that bring history to life, one reel at a time.